Hello, theory fans or reluctant participators. Today we're going to do worksheet 4 in our theory books. Okay, so some of this is the same as last week's lesson. This is the same question, although we no longer have this one to get us in the mindset first. So you're totally welcome to review over here. It's great if you don't need to anymore because we've been practicing this in class. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do that and see how well we can remember. Okay, so violins, your line notes, treble clef, line notes are every good boy deserves fudge. Space notes are face. Okay, violas, fat alley cats eat garbage. Space notes are good boys don't fight. And then for the cellos and basses, your line notes are good burritos don't fall apart. And your space notes are all cows eat grass. So again, we're going to start at the bottom and work up. That's why we have these lovely large arrows here that people like to ignore. So we're going to start at the bottom with our line notes. So every good boy deserves fudge. And our space notes starting at the bottom are F, A, C, E. Ta-da! And the more you do this, the faster you'll get at it. Right? The definition of a half step. Okay, so again, we can look either in the back of your theory book. Here's our definitions. A half step is the smallest distance between two notes. Or you can go to your Sound Innovations book in the very back of that. There's also a definition of half step, the smallest distance between two notes. That's where I got it from. So a half step is the smallest distance between two notes. Okay, so that's the definition of a half step. What does it look like on my instrument? So if I'm a violin or a viola player, and I put my fingers down on the string, I'll do it on the white here. So the distance between second finger and third finger, that's why we use pencil. Between second and third finger, this is a half step, okay? And we haven't used pinky yet, it's just sort of hanging out. The distance between first and second, that's a whole step. And just like fractions, a whole is two halves, okay? So this should be half the distance is this, all right? Half step. So for the violins and violas, it's the distance between F sharp and G on the D string, or on the A string, it would be the distance between C sharp and D, okay? So for cellos, you guys are a little different. All of your fingers are half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. So assuming you're doing it correctly and your fingers are all equidistant and where they belong, all of these are half steps. Okay? Makes sense? So again, between F sharp and G on the D string, or C sharp and D on the A string. Those are your half steps. Okay? For very handy pad of paper. For basses, your strings are so much bigger and your fingers have to be more apart. So the distance between first and second finger for you, which is going to be spread out here, that's your half step. And the distance between second finger and fourth finger is also a half step. So again, we're not using ring finger for long time until you start playing really, really high. So it's just helping out fourth finger there. They're best buds, okay? So you could say between F and F sharp, that's a half step. You could say between E and F. We haven't learned F yet, but that's okay. That's a half step. On your G string in third position, you have C sharp, which is 2, and D, which is 4. So it's the same. F sharp and G are a half step apart. C sharp and D are a half step apart. I just want to be sure that everybody knows where it is on your instrument and why it is what it is, okay? Fill in the fingerings for each of the following notes. Okay, so D string, how many fingers do you place on the D string to get the note D? 0, okay? You don't have to put any fingers on the D string and it's automatically a D, right? Okay, What comes after 0? 1, if we're using whole numbers, okay? So it's just alphabetical order, D, E, F, G, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's as complicated as it gets. And I just really want to stress to you guys that it's not some crazy like random pattern to how our notes go together. It's logical. It's very logical. 0, 1, 2, 3. A string is going to be the same thing. To play A on the violin or the viola, no fingers. You put one finger down, it's the next note. You put your second finger down, it's the next note. You put your third finger down. A, B, C sharp, D. Okay? So that's how that works. On the cello, dun, 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 dun. So for cello, we're not using second finger yet. So instead of going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 0, 1, 3, 4. Second finger's an F, and we won't learn that until spring. And then A string's same, 0, 1, 3, 4. Basses, it's a little different because you have a third position to go up to. And we're not using second finger on the D string yet. It's for F, which again, we won't learn until spring. So D is 0, E is 1, and F sharp is 4. On the G string, G is 0, A is 1, B is 4. And then when you shift up into third position, here's a half step we can see really easily. Between 2 and 4 is a half step, okay? So that's that. All right, what is a scale? Ooh, yay, it's a definition. We love those. Ha, just kidding. Okay, so definitions in the back. And you might look at this and go, dude, this is the longest definition back here. And I think actually looking at it, it's pretty close to it. It might be. A scale is usually a series of 8 notes that go up or down the musical alphabet in a specific order of whole steps and half steps. The lowest and highest notes of the scale are always the same letter name. So a scale, if you think back, if you've seen the movie Sound of Music, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that is the scale, okay? So do and do are the same letter name. I'm okay if you guys stop your definition right there. A scale is usually a series of 8 notes that go up or down the musical alphabet in a specific order of whole steps and half steps. And this is why I wanted you to know what a half step was, okay? It matters where the whole and half steps are, or it's not gonna sound like a scale, like we're used to it sounding, okay? The musical alphabet, I'm gonna talk about this really quickly, and I'm not actually gonna write it down right here. I'm gonna trust that you can read this and write it right here, okay? And don't try to get fancy, just write down the definition. Okay, so the musical alphabet, we'll use this space to do this. Musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. There are 7 letter names in the musical alphabet. So I like to tease my class. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth, okay? That's it. So after G, again, comes A, and so on and so forth, okay? So when you go up and down the musical alphabet, let's say you start on a D. D, E, F, G. We keep going A, B, C, D. So you're going to go from a D to a D, and you have to have one of each note name. So that's kind of the explanation in depth. Alrighty, so you're going to write that out. Number 5, copy these 2 measures and write in the note names underneath. Be sure to include your clef, your time signature, your double bar line. All right, so we'll do our clef, which should be getting easier, I hope, and our double bar line at the end. So I did that. Copy these 2 measures. Okay, so first we're doing, for the violins and the violas, our space notes. And don't forget your F sharp and your C sharp. And then our line notes. And again, please don't make your lines like that. That's really hard to read. It just looks like your pencil vomited up on the paper. That's really hard. Okay. And then we do our stems. And again, when notes are in the middle line or above, stems go down. Okay, did I trace everything I was supposed to? Yes. Write in the note names underneath. Okay, so this is the first note we ever learned, that is open D. And then the rest of these are space notes, right? So F, A, C, except that it's not just F, it's F sharp. So we're going to stick that in there. And then these are our line notes. Every good boy deserves. When you're doing this, please do capital letters. It's way easier to read capital letters, and it's just sort of a general thing you will always do when you're writing letter names for anything in music theory. It's always capital letters. It's just easier to read. They're all the same size. Okay, so I wrote in the note names underneath. Check. 6. Write in the beats underneath these notes. Be sure to use 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in every measure. Now, I have some quarter notes, which I recognize, and quarter rests from the very beginning. But I have this weird note, and I can't remember what it is, so I'm going to check back to last week. Oh, yes. Okay, so this is a half note, and a half note gets the same amount of beats as 2 quarters. Okay, so we'll see if I can remember that over here. So, you know, you can always do this. There's nothing wrong with doing beat 1 first, just so you can make sure that you know that all of your measures are starting with beat 1. Totally fine. Eventually you won't need to anymore. So quarter note gets 1 beat. Quarter note also gets a beat, and a whole beat. Sorry, slight technical difficulty. Okay, so second complete beat is 2 and. Third beat on the rest is 3 and then our final beat of the measure is 4 and. Here's our half note. So again, it's going to get 2 beats, which will look like 1 and 2 and then our other half note will get the last 2 beats of the measure. So you can see 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So each one of these half notes are going to get 2 beats. Moving on, this is a quarter rest. It gets 1 beat. Quarter note, 1 beat. Half rest, or excuse me, half note, 2 beats. You don't have to circle these, I'm just doing it for you. Okay, and then quarter rest gets 1 and, quarter note 2 and, quarter rest 3 and, quarter note 4 and that's it. It's all done. That wasn't so bad.